That bill was drafted after the so-called Extinction Rebellion environment protests back in 2019. It would let police set time and noise limits on rallies, even individual demonstrations. Activists say it's designed to suppress dissent. Existing laws are under new scrutiny after police arrested several people at a recent vigil for a murdered woman. Well, Paul Brennan was at one of those rallies for us today in London. Paul, there was really quite the diverse turnout today. Can you talk us through how everything's played out?
Yeah, it's a real. This piece of proposed legislation has really brought together a real kaleidoscope of different campaign groups and interest parties because of the way it would clamp down broadly on protest and dissent. So it's brought together groups as diverse as Black Lives Matter, for example, and Extinction Rebellion, and even Greenpeace has expressed its concerns. And today what we had was a few thousand people here in London marching from Hyde Park Corner down into central London to Parliament Square, where they heard speeches and listened to some live music. And then they've been dispersed during the late afternoon. And I'm now in Trafalgar Square, where they gathered for a while, and they've been moved off over my shoulder away down a place called the Aldwych. There was some confrontation towards the end of the afternoon. There had been some alcohol drunk, and there were some clashes between police and protesters. There were also some scuffles here in Trafalgar Square when some small pockets of demonstrators tried to block the traffic, and the police were very adamant that they weren't going to be allowed to block the traffic. There have been some arrests as well. There are at least 6 arrests in this small area where I'm standing, and I think there may have been others elsewhere. But overall, it's passed off peacefully.
Paul, how is the government viewing all of this, especially given the current state of public opinion around policing there?
Yeah, it's important to look at the big context of the bill that's been put through. As you say, it's largely inspired by 2019's Extinction Rebellion protests, which paralysed central London for many, many weeks, and the police felt powerless to actually move people on and get the thoroughfares of London, the roads, open and running again. The criticism, though, of this particular proposed legislation is that it goes too far the other way, that it would allow the police on a much lower threshold, not from the risk of serious disorder, but just from public nuisance grounds, to start and finish times and impose noise restrictions on protesters. The government doesn't appear minded to back down on this. They have a majority in Parliament. Theoretically, they could push it through if they wanted to. There will be amendments, no doubt, submitted by opposition parties who are very angry about it. And the biggest criticism really is that it's a mammoth bill which lumps lots of different things in together. For example, it proposes longer sentences for serious crimes, non-prison sentences for less serious crimes. They're kind of things that many people here in the UK would agree with. On the protest side of things, though, that's where it really gets sticky. And the idea of clamping down on what people regard as a human right to dissent is not a popular measure.